Welcome to the fourth edition of the Octopus Hangout, and with me today is Jordan
Hello.
and Jeremy,
How's it going, guys?
and of course I am Peter, your host, and we're going to start off right now with the Grand Rapids Griffins, heading into their first ever appearance in the Calder Finals. They just squeaked by the Barons, who came out pretty tough against them. How do you guys feel about the Griffins right now and their chances in the Calder Finals against the Syracuse Crunch?
It's looking pretty good. I mean, now they got Danny DeKaiser coming in on the blue line, so they were already running pretty well before they got Nyquist and Anderson and now DeKaiser. So it's looking pretty good for them. Obviously, Syracuse is playing very well if they're in the finals, so I'm sure it's not going to be an easy series, but I like their chances. Their lineup is looking really good right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely, they were clicking even before the Red Wings were eliminated from the playoffs and returned their best young guys to the team. And now DeKaiser's coming back. And I know Syracuse is a really good team. They're the Lightning's AHL affiliate. So an interesting storyline is the Red Wings against Stevie Yzerman's boys in Syracuse. That's an interesting storyline. But I think the Griffins are in really good shape. With all the young guys they have, and they seem to click when they played 2 or 3 games together against the Barons. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, they're definitely a very strong team. When you can take Timo Pulkkinen, who is one of their best players in the playoffs so far, and sit him on the bench because Anderson and Nyquist are back on the team. That's huge. When you can take one of your star players and sit him because Pulkkinen's a first, second line guy. They're not going to play him on the third, fourth line, which in the AHL is bruiser lines. Not so much in the NHL anymore, but if you're on the third or fourth line, you have to be able to fight and stuff like that. And Pulkkinen, that's not really Pulkkinen's job, but when you can take him and bench him because of how good your starting top 6 is, it's huge.
Yeah, and it's such an exciting thing for the Red Wings franchise too, right? To have all these young guys getting the experience to play in a AHL championship final. It's really good, especially when all the talk has been over the last year about our lack of depth with young talent, and now it's kind of taken a right turn this year, and it turns out that we have a lot more young talent than we might have thought we did.
Yeah, and for guys like Anderson and Nyquist, this is a double whammy, really, because not only do they have the experience of going pretty deep into the NHL playoffs and almost advancing to the conference final, but now they're playing in the AHL final, and that's a double whammy of summer experience for them. So it can't hurt going forward.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, when you look at the future of the Red Wings right now, you have Nyquist, Tatar, Anderson all playing down there, and they're on the first line. Like, they're the best line that the Griffins have. And then on defense, you have Danny DeKaiser and you have Brian Lashoff down there. Brian Lashoff, who signed a 3-year contract this season with the Red Wings, and he'll be with them next year. I mean, that's 5 guys who could be on the Red Wings next season. No question.
Yeah, and you also look at guys like Riley Sheehan. You look at guys like Landon Ferraro. Yarncroc could be up next year. We don't know. Pulkkinen could be up next year as well.
Yeah.
Just really exciting things going on right now for the Red Wings.
Okay, we're going to move from, the Red Wings depth to the Red Wings UFAs. We did a re-sign or not re-sign of Ian White, and it was very negative. Nobody really wants him back. It was 99-11, no to yes. And even Ian White kind of knows he's not going to be back. So let's shy away from him because I know nobody really wants him back. And let's talk about Dan Cleary or I can't think of one right now. Yeah, Damian Brunner, Drew Miller. Let's talk about those guys and how you think if you want them back or not.
Well, I think Cleary had a tremendous playoff, second in points on the team. He seems to put some of his injuries behind him, and He played really well, so I know they want to get him signed and would like to bring him back. And it sounds like he's interested in coming back too. So I think you'll see a deal get done for him. Brunner, I know obviously they want to bring Brunner back. He had a really good first year. He scored some clutch goals in the playoffs, but obviously he's in line for a big raise probably this summer, and he could probably fetch a bigger contract elsewhere. So I guess it depends how much he wants to stay in Detroit. So the hope is hopefully that they're going to get him done as well. I think Drew Miller is, I would say, 50-50. I know that they like him a lot, but I could see him leaving. But obviously the important ones are getting Brunner done and Cleary done.
Yeah, I think with Cleary, his postseason was so impressive, and he played through more injuries in the postseason and still put up 10 points. I think Cleary's coming back, not only because apparently he's still got something left, but because he provides some leadership. He can grind. He can also score. He rediscovered his scoring touch a bit in the postseason. I think Brunner does come back, even though he probably can get something elsewhere. From what I understand, he loves being in Detroit. He loves the locker room, loves the front office. I'm sure a deal gets done there. With Miller, I'm not sure Miller comes back, considering some of the guys that are down in Grand Rapids right now. And Miller could be in line for a nice 2 or 3 year contract on someone else's third or fourth line. I'm not so sure Miller comes back. I'm leaning towards no at this point. Although I'd love Miller to come back. I'm just not sure he will.
Here's the thing about Grand Rapids, though. I don't know if we have that, third, fourth line player like Drew Miller is, who can step up right now and play on the penalty kill as well as he can. I mean, our penalty kill when Drew Miller was out was really bad. And then he came back in the Chicago series, and Chicago had no goals on the power play until I think it was Game 6 or Game 7. I mean, what he does on the penalty kill is very impressive. And not only that, but he spent time on Zetterberg's wing in the beginning of the season for a bit when I think Cleary went down or something happened there, and I thought he played very well on Zetterberg's line. And with around $11.5 million in cap space, I don't see how we can't bring all three of them back. But even that, I'm leaning towards not bringing back Cleary. I know he has something left in the tank, but I'm not sold on him. I'm not sold on that he can stay healthy. I'm not sold on his point production. I think if you put Brunner back up on that line, or you bring up Nyquist and put him on that line, I think he does a better job than Cleary does. And well, the one player neither of you mentioned was Valtteri Filppula. Do you want to bring him back, or I mean? I doubt it's going to be $5 million now, because if anyone's going to pay that, they're pretty insane.
I don't really want him back, and I don't think he's going to be back. And it's not just the injury that occurred. It's that he's so inconsistent. It's that he disappears from so many big games. I mean, yeah, he had a good Game 7 against Anaheim, but he didn't really do much in the Chicago series aside from the Game 2 goal, which was a terrific goal. I mean, he can do that, but he can also disappear and not really be a factor at all for long stretches. He's not going to get $5 million, and I don't really think Ken Holland's going to want him back, quite honestly.
I'll stick with what I said before. I'd be happy to have him back, but for far less than $5 million, somewhere in the 3 or 4 range, I would take him back. I would take Filppula back.
Okay.
Yeah, and also on your point about Miller and the penalty kill, obviously the big hope is that next year you're going to have a healthy Darren Helm.
That's true.
That's going to be a big piece to the penalty kill puzzle, because I think Darren Helm is probably their best penalty killer, period.
Absolutely. If Helm's healthy, that's a huge plus, and on so many different levels. Speed, penalty kill, can chip in a few goals. He's a plus player.
Yeah. But who plays the wing? You have Darren. Let's say we're going with penalty kill. You have Darren Helm, you have Corey Emerton, you have Patrick Eves, and
Anderson.
Anderson playing the wing there.
I would go with Anderson on the wing. Yeah.
Sure.
It gives you two face-off guys there. I can handle that.
I would go there.
And your point about Cleary as well, I just think Cleary brings some different skills to the table that some of the guys that you talked about don't bring. Like Brunner and Nyquist, those guys are not guys getting their nose dirty or getting into it. You know what I mean? Cleary, he's good in front of the net. He's in the corners. He's more of a grinding player, and I don't think the Red Wings we don't have enough of those players. So I think if you get rid of Cleary, right now our roster doesn't have enough of that physical type of player. So if you're getting rid of him, you really need to replace him with somebody else, maybe a UFA this summer. But I hope they keep Cleary.
Okay, let's jump to UFAs though. If let's say Cleary does not get re-signed, who do you want to take his spot, or do you want Abdelkader to move down and someone to take Datsuk's wing instead of him? Abdelkader play with Zetterberg, or do you want to keep Abdelkader with Datsuk and get someone for Zetterberg's wing?
Well, I guess it depends who they can get this summer. It's not as deep of a field as last summer, but last summer didn't work out too well. So maybe this summer will work out a bit better for the Red Wings. Number one on my list is David Clarkson. I think he's that type of player that I was just describing, a big physical, grinding player. He's got a nice scoring touch. He really can do anything that you need him to do. He's been really good for New Jersey in the playoffs before. I think he's the type of player we're missing or that we need more of. I would kind of compare him to a Brendan Shanahan type player. Doesn't fight as much as Shanahan, but he's that same kind of player. And I don't know if we've had a player fill that role since Shanahan left the Red Wings. So he would be number one on my list up front. What do you think, Jeremy?
Clarkson will be a great addition, and I agree with that. He's become more of a scorer. He's also a grinder, and you can put him on the second or third line. He will produce. A name I'm very interested in is Brian Bickle. But however, he's been so good this postseason that it might be just out of the Wings' range. Especially with the move to I see you, Peter. Especially with the move to the East, I think we could use more size. And a line with Bickle and Tutu on it, and I'm just salivating at it. All the fights that could be had on that line. But Bickle can score. Bickle's tough. Bickle's big. But I just think he'll be too much money at this point. I'd love to have him, but because we could use more size, obviously. But I think he'll be too expensive. But Clarkson is also going to be expensive.
I do not like Brian Bickle at all. And it's nothing about him. Well, it's mostly about him rather than actually having him on the Red Wings and thinking he won't be able to produce. But I guess the guy I'm looking at is Nathan Horton. He's a big guy. He plays on the first line in Boston. He's going to be UFA next season. Who knows if they bring him back or not. The only problem is, he has a history of concussion issues, which can be a problem. But he's a big guy. He knows how to score. He's 28. He's a young guy. I mean, you put him on Datsuk's wing or Zetterberg's wing, and it brings a lot of physicality to the Red Wings and a lot of scoring as well. You don't have to worry about Datsuk or Zetterberg making space for themselves, because he'll make space. He'll play like Bertuzzi, except a lot younger and a lot faster.
No.
Yeah, I really like Horton too.
Yeah, Horton would be great. The reason I'm just leaning a little bit more towards Clarkson is what you said, the injury history. He's missed a lot of hockey over the years, but when he's playing, I don't think there's any question that he's probably maybe the best player on the list this summer. So he would be a great pickup. Another guy up front, maybe a guy like Ryan Clough, who's a UFA this summer. I really think they need that power forward, a big body up front. So Clough would be another guy that would fill that role.
And he can play the puck from the bench, so it's even better.
Yeah.
He can. I saw this a couple weeks ago, maybe a little less than that the Red Wings were interested in Victor Stahlberg. What would you guys think of that?
Mm.
Oh,
I would stay away from Victor Stahlberg personally. I think
he's
he plays a little bit too much on the outside for me. He's pretty inconsistent. He has flashes where he's really good, and then he has flashes where he's bad.
Yeah, he was in Quenneville's doghouse to start the conference semifinal.
Yeah.
yeah, he's really fast though for a big guy. He has
He is.
skates.
What about Iginla?
Reminds me a little too much of Filppula.
Again,
You think the Red Wings are interested in Iginla?
well, who knows if he even comes back next season? You know, he's been hinting about retirement. You know,
This would be his one chance to win a cup.
man, if he comes back next season, I'd take him. Not for $7 million like he made this season, but maybe like 5. He might get more than that, but I think that's what I'd kind of pay for him since he's so old. He's turning 36. But
I think he'll get more than 5.5 though. I think he will.
I think he might as well. But the production that he brings. I mean, he's one of the most consistent power forwards in the league, and he has been for the past 10 years.
Yep.
And he was a cap before joining Pittsburgh. He captained the Flames for 11 years, 12 years. So he's
can we
got
blame
that
him
leadership
for all the
factor.
Flames problems?
Say it again. I didn't hear you.
I said, so can we blame him for all the Flames problems?
Yeah, we can.
I don't know. Jay Feaster, maybe.
Or what about Jay Bouwmeester? Can we blame him as well?
There's a lot of people to blame in Calgary.
Yeah, Calgary's just in a world of hurt right now.
And another name out there too, up front is Pascal Dupuis from Pittsburgh. He's had some very good seasons there. He's a good goal scorer. He's fast. He would certainly fit in well on the wing with Datsuk or Zetterberg. So that might be a player that the Red Wings are interested in. There's no way Pittsburgh can keep all of these guys. I was reading an article today saying that they're most likely looking to trade either Chris Kunitz or James Neal as well as losing Iginla. So there's some Penguins out there available.
Oh, if I would take James Neal in a heartbeat.
I would love James Neal.
I would
love him.
He's not the most complete player,
But he can score.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
He can score,
he can
man.
Light the lamp.
Yeah.
Off. And that's one player that the Red Wings have been missing is someone who just scores. He doesn't have to do anything else. All he has to do is score. You have either Datsuk playing defense, taking your face-offs, or you have Zetterberg playing defense and taking your face-offs and setting you up. We need someone who can just pure score all the time.
Yeah, and Neal is a proven 40-goal scorer, and the Penguins will be selling some of these guys off because their cap structure is just so shot right now. Because they went in on all these guys and didn't win the cup.
Yeah.
So who knows?
The one guy I wouldn't take is Pascal Dupuis. He's been playing well for Pittsburgh, but before he got there, he wasn't very good, and I think he might just be a product of Pittsburgh's system, and playing with Crosby or Malkin, and
I think Dupuis and Kunitz are both products of that system.
Yeah.
Because they were both kind of grinders and not really consistent goal scorers before they got to Pittsburgh. Then they get to Pittsburgh, they pair up with Crosby and Malkin, and they start scoring like crazy.
What about guys on the back end, UFAs?
Oh,
I would have given Sergei Gonchar a look, but the Stars got him last night, so...
no.
I think a guy that they were linked with at the trade deadline this year was Ryan Whitney from Edmonton. I think that might be a player that could interest the Red Wings this summer. He hasn't had a very good last couple of years in Edmonton, but when he was playing for Pittsburgh, he was very good. So
yeah, when he's healthy, he's very productive. Real good puck mover, real good on the power play, good getting offense from defense. But the problem is he's not healthy.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty thin on the defense. Another guy is Mark Streit from the Islanders captain.
Yeah,
he's out there. He might be someone that would interest the Wings as well, but it's pretty thin on the defense side of things.
I'm also kind of looking at Rosenthal. He's not an offensive player. Everyone knows that, but I think the Wings need to shore up their defensive side on defense, and he's a defensive defenseman. That's what he does, and I think he can shut down a lot of players. I thought he played well against the Red Wings. He got embarrassed a couple of times because he's not the fastest skater, but he blocks shots. He's kind of always in the right position, and if you pair him up with a guy like Smith, and you move Quincy somewhere else because that pairing was just atrocious.
It was very nerve-wracking. Yes.
You put a defensive defenseman with Smith and let him play his offensive game and let the other guy kind of cover up for him a bit, and I think you have a great pairing there.
Yeah, they've said constantly that they're looking for a top 4 defenseman. So Whitney maybe, but if they want to get a top 4 defenseman, it probably most likely have to come by a trade this summer because the list is not an impressive one.
If they get a top 4 defenseman, who's out? Quincy?
That would probably be who I would.
Or Kolyakovo.
Maybe Kolyakovo, yeah.
I thought he played very well for us, but man, there's just not a whole lot of room on that defense once DeKaiser comes back and
Erickson and Kindle are going to be there.
Yep.
Well, it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Oh, any depth on defense is a great problem to have, and I think we saw that at the beginning of the year when 3 of our guys went down and we had to go out and get a guy who has been playing the AHL for a bit, and Kent Huskins. And although he did a pretty good job for us on the defensive front, it hurt.
Yep.
Moving from possible UFA additions, let's go back to the Red Wings and talk about who would you buy out, if anybody. Who's the guy that you don't want on the Red Wings anymore?
Beating a dead horse, Michael Samuelsson would probably be number 1. The guy played like 1 game or whatever he played this year. He's always hurt. Even when he's in the lineup, I don't like him. He would probably be number 1. Burt would probably be number 2 just because I like Burt, but I think it's probably time for Burt to hang him up. His back is not in good shape. He's always injured. And he's just not the same physical force that he used to be. So I think it's probably time for both of those guys to move on.
When the 2-year extension was announced for Bertuzzi, I was a little wary of it because I didn't think he was going to be healthy for it. And he had back problems before then. And he had these spells where he just wouldn't be in the lineup before then. So I think it is time for Bertuzzi to go. I mean, it's going to be between Bertuzzi and Samuelsson, who they buy out.
Well, we have 2.
Yeah, they can do 2.
Oh, they can do 2. That's right. So I think that they'll both be bought out in that case. Yeah.
I'm just worried about buying out Bertuzzi. Applicator, really stepped up this year, but was it a 1-year thing or is it going to be a consistent thing? Are they going to go out and try and bring someone else in and move Applicator back down? I love the way Pavel Datsyuk plays with Bertuzzi. I don't know why it works so well, because Bertuzzi's not a fast skater, but he's big, he has smooth hands, and he creates a lot of space for Datsyuk on the ice. And when they played together, Datsyuk had 7 points in 7 games. I know that's not huge for Datsyuk to be a point per game player over the time since he actually was better than that at the end of the year. But I mean, even Filppula, because Filppula's on the wing, played better with Bertuzzi, and Bertuzzi had 3 points. I mean, if he can be healthy, he's huge for Datsyuk, but he's just injured too much.
There's no guarantee he's going to be healthy. And he's getting up there in age, and that's why I don't think they'll bring him back.
But it's also 1 year left on his contract, and the Wings don't really have a cap problem right now. And if you buy out Samuelsson, that's $3 million left, and now you're at $14 million for next season.
It's different with Samuelsson because he's got 2 years left.
Is there an Is there an option to buy out Bertuzzi and then just bring him back for the shootout when we have shootouts?
Yeah,
I'd love
that's
to do
the other
that.
big thing. The Wings were just terrible in shootouts this past season.
I do think we missed him in the shootout as well.
Samuelson has 1 year left.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
as far
I
as
thought
I
it was
know
2.
as well. I think he only got a 2-year contract. I don't know. Well, someone will correct us at the end here, but yeah, I think it's. I don't know about buying out 1 year left contracts just because it's gonna. Unless he says he's not gonna be back next season, then I'm all for it. But I think you do one on offense and one on defense. If you want to bring in a defensive UFA or trade for a defenseman, you either have to buy one of them out or something because right now we have 7 guys on the roster next season to play defense when Kindle and Smith are brought back.
Who would you buy out on the back end?
Kolyakovo because he's always hurt, or that's really it, or Quincy. Oh, those are.
I don't think Quinn's getting bought out.
I don't think so either.
I
But
think it'll be
those are
Kolyakovo.
those are the 2 guys that you would buy out if you had to buy out anybody on the defense. Because you're not going to buy out Erickson, you're not going to buy out Cromwell, you're not going to buy out Smith or Kindle or DeKaiser. Those are the 2 guys.
If Kindle had another really bad year, then they might think about it. But he had a good year.
But he's an
gonna-
RFA. It doesn't matter. You don't have to buy him out.
that's right.
You just let him walk.
It's just a hypothetical.
Yeah.
I still think it's Bertuzzi or Samuelson or both. To me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
What about let's go crazy here and say Franzen. He has a super long contract, and the way the CBA is worded, if he decides to retire before that contract's over, the Wings get stuck with a ton of money.
It's a good
And
point.
yeah.
Franzen's such an interesting case because he has these spells obviously where he goes through where he'll just score at will. Then he has other spells where he doesn't do anything and he shies away from the net, avoids confrontation, and it's just not good. But how many years does he have left? 4 years?
No, he's 7, I think.
I don't think he has. He has 7 left.
Yeah, I believe so.
I thought it was a 7-year deal. But yeah, he's got that long contract. It's an interesting case.
Holland said that they're not going to do it. I wouldn't buy him out, but I would think about it, but I wouldn't do it. I think it's kind of interesting when you talk about Franzen to look back to that year when it was kind of Franzen or Hossa, who they were going to keep in whatever was that 2009.
2009.
And at the time, that the year before was when Franzen was unreal in the playoffs, and at the time I said, keep Franzen. We drafted him. He's our player. We've cultivated him. Keep him. But I think if you go back to 2009, if you're Kenny Holland, you probably would keep Marian Hossa, as it turned out.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I think Marian Hossa grew a lot after he left the Red Wings. He was more even with the Red Wings. He was a very good player, but he just
Scored 41 goals. He was great.
Yeah, he disappeared in the playoffs, though, and that was a huge deal.
Yeah,
And
if he'd been in the playoffs, we might have won the cup that year.
If he had, gotten any points in the finals, I think he got 1 point in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But yeah, Franzen signed until 2020, so
No, he is.
it's a lot.
We have a lot of long
deal.
contracts, so I can't keep them all straight.
No, not much. We only have 3.
I mean, Zetterberg's extended for forever still. Datsuk's got another year left.
20,
Let's get that
2021.
to 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that.
No, I would not love that at all because I know he would leave way before that contract was over. I think 2 more years after this 1 year is good for him, and he'd leave us still kind of at the top of his game, and he'd be going back to Russia, and by that time Yarncroc or Anderson or one of the other young guys will be ready to take over kind of his spot, or we'll get a high draft pick and draft. Nobody can really replace him, but just kind of fill in for him.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I think it's great that he wants to sign an extension, but I'm probably going to put it at 3 years. I think he only wants a
Yeah.
3-year deal, and then he's going to go back to Russia. I mean, it's not fair to keep him in Detroit longer than he wants to. He wants to go home. I don't blame him. He's been in Detroit since 2001. So, I mean, I love the guy. It's going to be really hard to replace him, but let's not think about that. Let's just keep enjoying Datsuk, you know?
Exactly. He's not leaving. He's never leaving. You know, we're going to keep him here forever, just like Lindstrom. Lindstrom was never leaving until he left. But until then, we never thought he was leaving. So let's just keep thinking in our minds that Datsuk will stay forever, and
Yep.
he'll just turn into a cyborg and keep playing.
Happy thoughts.
Exactly. We don't need
Just
any
think
sad
happy
thoughts
thoughts.
on the podcast. We don't need any sad thoughts on here. So I think that about does it for today. Does anyone have any last words?
I was just curious what your guys thought are for the final Stanley Cup final. Who you're picking?
Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
Do you think
Tuukka
LA
Rask.
has a chance of coming back
No.
against Chicago, or are they done?
Oh, I think they have a chance to come back. They definitely do with Jonathan Quick in that. And but Chicago's been playing very well right now lately, and it's a bit surprising because this was the first game LA lost on home ice in the playoffs this year. But I think that can really motivate them, and they'll definitely make Game 5 very interesting. And I know Chicago doesn't want to have what happened to Detroit happen to them, you know, and be up 3-1, then lose the series. So I think they're going to fight really hard as well.
Yeah, the original 6 Stanley Cup final will be pretty cool.
Yeah, hasn't happened since 1979.
Yeah, but do you really want Chicago with another chance to win a cup?
Well, that's the old, like, at least we say we lost to the team that won it. I don't know. That's one way to look at it. But
We
I'm
could say that.
not a big fan of Chicago. They just rub me the wrong way. They're so cocky.
Yeah.
But I think Boston would be the best or the lesser of all the evils. So it's hard to pick against them after sweeping Pittsburgh like that. But I think Chicago will give them a stern test. They're not going to sweep the Blackhawks.
And the big thing about Boston, I thought, was, they didn't really completely dominate the Pens. Like, the Pens had great goaltending from Vokoun, except for I think it was game 2.
Game 2, yeah, where they lost 6-1.
But Tuukka Rask is just insane right now. 2 goals in 4 games.
Well, it's funny because the best playoff goaltending performance before that has to be Tim Thomas.
Yeah.
And now Tuukka Rask is playing as good as Thomas or better. So it's pretty crazy. Boston's got pretty lucky with their goaltending.
Yeah, really. I mean, what Rask did to that offense over 4 games, he just stonewalled them every chance they had. I mean, there were posts, there were bad breaks. The goal that won Game 3 probably could have been a hooking penalty on Jágr. But I mean, Rask was insane. I'd never seen him play that well. And it gives Boston a huge advantage going forward if he plays that well again.
I'm sure Jágr is happy that Iginla decided to go to Pittsburgh because he wouldn't be in Boston if he didn't.
Yeah.
I think Boston's pretty happy about that as well, because guess who won that? Boston did.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny how it works out.
Jeremy, do you have any last words?
No, I think that it'll be a good Game 5 tonight between the Blackhawks and Kings, and looking forward to the final. I'm looking forward to the Calder Cup final too. That starts tonight.
Yeah, you can stream that online too, they said.
Yeah, it's online for free.
Yeah.
It'll be tomorrow by the time this is out, but
Yeah.
yeah, you can stream it online for free, and I think we have that up on Octopus Store.
Yep.
Cool.
And so, with the last word, I'll say, let's go Griffins. And for Jordan and Jeremy, I'm Peter, and this was the Octopus Store episode 4. Have a good night.